His oxygen is dropping. I was already halfway out of my chair when the monitor beside my son's hospital bed started beeping faster. Nurse Dana Reeves barely looked up from her tablet. He's stable. He wasn't breathing like this a second ago, I said. Please put the mask back on. Dana sighed like I was interrupting her day on purpose. Then she reached over my 6-year-old son and removed the oxygen mask completely. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for updates. It's called letting him breathe on his own, she muttered. Liam's chest tightened instantly. His small fingers grabbed at the blanket while he tried pulling in air through wet, rattling breaths. Look at him, I snapped. He can't breathe. Dana finally looked at me, not at Liam, at me. Ms. Morgan, parents who panic make everything worse. She rolled her eyes and added, You're being overdramatic. Then she walked out of the room. The monitor chirped again. And Liam's lips started turning blue. I lunged for the oxygen mask Dana had tossed onto the side tray. Liam, baby, look at me, breathe. His eyes were glassy, terrified. Outside the room, 2 nurses passed by without stopping. One glanced toward the monitor, then kept walking. Dana had already entered something into the chart station outside the door. Whatever she typed had convinced everyone my son was fine. The alarm on the monitor became sharper. Help, I screamed. I slammed the emergency button so hard my hand hurt, then shoved the oxygen mask back over Liam's face myself. Within seconds, a respiratory specialist rushed in. What happened? He barked, looking straight at the monitor. His expression changed instantly. Why is he off oxygen? He demanded. More staff flooded the room. Someone adjusted the flow rate. Another nurse checked Liam's pulse while the specialist stabilized his breathing. And then Dana came back. Not panicked, not apologizing. Annoyed. What exactly is going on in here? She asked. I stared at her in disbelief. You left him. Dana ignored me and moved toward the monitor. I watched her hand tap something on the screen before she grabbed the chart tablet beside the bed. The respiratory specialist turned toward her sharply. His sats were in the low 80s. Dana answered calmly. The mother became aggressive and interfered during treatment. I felt my stomach drop. That's a lie, I said. Security arrived moments later after hearing the yelling. Instead of questioning Dana, they positioned themselves between us like I was the problem. Liam was rushed upstairs for observation, while I stood in the hallway shaking so badly I could barely hold the complaint form they handed me. The hospital administrator who met with me spoke in a flat, rehearsed voice. We take concerns seriously, she said, but these situations can become emotionally confusing for family members. Emotionally confusing. My son had turned blue in front of me. I filed the report anyway. 2 days later, Liam was finally home, curled up asleep on our couch with a blanket tucked under his chin and a portable pulse monitor beside him. I hadn't slept much myself. Every time his breathing changed, I checked to make sure his chest was still moving. Around 10 that night, someone knocked on my apartment door. Not a light knock. 3 hard hits. I opened it carefully and found a man standing there in a dark jacket, holding a hospital ID badge in one hand. He looked nervous. Then he said quietly, You filed the report against Dana Reeves, didn't you? Marcus Hale kept glancing back down the apartment hallway, like he was afraid someone had followed him. Can I come in for a minute? He asked quietly. I hesitated before unlocking the chain. The second he stepped inside, his eyes went straight to Liam sleeping on the couch with the monitor clipped to his finger. Marcus lowered his voice. I was the respiratory therapist who responded when you hit the emergency button. I recognized him immediately, same tired eyes, same blue scrub jacket from the hospital. You saw what happened, I said. I saw enough. He pulled out his phone and looked at me carefully. Did you take any pictures of the monitor before they moved your son upstairs? My stomach tightened. Why? Because the chart doesn't match what I saw. The room suddenly felt colder. Marcus explained that Dana Reeves had a reputation in pediatric ER. According to him, she dismissed parents constantly, especially younger mothers. She calls them panic moms, he admitted. Most people just stay quiet because she's close with the ER supervisor. And nobody reports her. They do, he gave a bitter laugh. The complaints disappear. I stared at Liam sleeping under the blanket. His breathing was finally steady, but hearing that made my chest tighten all over again. Marcus showed me a timestamp he'd secretly photographed from the hallway security system. Dana had been out of Liam's room far longer than she documented in the chart. She wrote she returned within 30 seconds, Marcus said. It was over 2 minutes. 2 minutes, for a child struggling to breathe. After Marcus left, Liam woke up coughing softly and looked at me with exhausted eyes. Mum, I'm here. He swallowed hard. Did I almost die because I pulled my mask off earlier? The question hit me like a punch. No, baby, I said immediately, kneeling beside him. None of this was your fault. But the nurse got mad. I pulled him into my arms before he could see my face break apart. That night I called hospital administration again and demanded a review of Liam's records. The woman on the phone sounded completely different this time. Cold, controlled. Ms. Morgan, she said carefully, we strongly advise against spreading inaccurate claims regarding our staff. Inaccurate, I snapped. My son turned blue. We found no evidence of negligence. Then she added something that made my blood boil. Public accusations could create serious legal complications. Not concern for Liam. Not concern for me. A warning. After I hung up, I sat in silence staring at Liam's discharge papers spread across the kitchen table. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. If they changed Liam's chart, they changed other kids' charts too. I was standing inside the hospital lobby less than an hour after reading that message. I want the full records, I told the woman at the reception desk. Every monitor log, every chart update, everything. Her polite smile disappeared the second she typed my name into the computer. Ms. Morgan, administration requested that all communication go through patient relations. I already spoke to patient relations. Then you need to leave. People in the waiting area started looking over. A security guard approached before I could answer. Ma'am, we're asking you not to disrupt hospital operations. Disrupt, I looked around in disbelief. My child stopped breathing in this building. That's when I saw Dana Reeves walking down the hallway, carrying a clipboard like nothing had happened. Perfect hair, calm expression, not a trace of concern. She noticed me instantly. Dana stopped near the nurses' station and said loudly enough for nearby families to hear. Some parents become emotional during treatment and misunderstand medical procedures. I stared at her. You removed his oxygen mask. Dana gave a thin smile. Your son was stable. He turned blue. Several people in the waiting room went quiet. Dana folded her arms. You were yelling at staff and interfering while we treated him. That's not true. Security stepped closer to me, not her. A woman sitting near the pediatric intake desk slowly stood up after Dana walked away. She looked nervous. My daughter had Dana last year, she said quietly. She ignored her fever for hours. I blinked. Did you report it? The woman gave a humorless laugh. They told me I was overreacting too. That was the moment I realized this wasn't one bad shift. This had happened before. Outside the hospital, my phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Meet me behind the parking garage. 10 minutes later, Marcus handed me several folded printouts. I shouldn't even have these, he muttered. The papers showed Liam's monitor history. My eyes locked onto one line immediately. Alarm muted. Then another. No response for 87 seconds. She silenced it, I whispered. Marcus nodded grimly before she left the room. I felt sick. Before I could say anything else, Marcus looked over my shoulder toward the hospital building. They're already locking things down. Later that afternoon, I contacted a patient advocate and requested the hallway security footage. 2 hours later, The hospital emailed back claiming portions of the recording were temporarily unavailable due to system maintenance. Convenient timing. That evening, a local reporter named Jenna Ortiz called me after hearing rumors from someone inside the ER. "We're hearing there may have been negligence involving a pediatric patient," she said carefully. "Would you be willing to talk?" I hesitated. Then another email appeared in my inbox while we were speaking. From Harrington Medical Legal Department. Any dissemination of false allegations against hospital personnel may result in legal action. My hands started shaking. Before I could answer Jenna, another call came through. "Marcus." I answered immediately. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Dana just accessed Liam's file again." I drove back to Harrington Medical, so fast I barely remembered the trip. Marcus met me near the employee entrance looking pale and exhausted. "She's changing things," he said immediately. "Come on." We slipped into a small staff records room behind respiratory services. Marcus logged into a hospital terminal with trembling hands. "There," he whispered, pointing at the screen. "Liam Morgan, chart modified 11:42 p.m. Again. And again. Dana had reopened the file multiple times after my complaint was submitted. "She edited the treatment timestamps," Marcus said. "The original entries are gone." My heart pounded as he opened a backup monitor log hidden in the system. The numbers hit me instantly. Oxygen saturation dropping. Alarm triggered. Alarm silenced. No intervention documented. Marcus printed everything as fast as the machine could spit pages out. "She's trying to make it look like you caused the problem," he said. Then the door opened. 2 hospital security officers stepped inside. Marcus froze. "Step away from the computer," one of them ordered. "I'm authorized." "You accessed restricted records without approval." I watched them escort Marcus out, while nurses and staff nearby pretended not to notice. Not one person asked why a child's records were being altered. Not one. That was when I understood the hospital wasn't protecting patients. They were protecting themselves. By morning, I had filed reports with the state nursing board and the health department. Not internal complaints. Official investigations. That afternoon, Jenna Ortiz published a short article online. Mother accuses pediatric ER nurse of ignoring child in respiratory distress. The reaction exploded almost immediately. Comments flooded in from former patients and parents. She ignored my son's seizure warning signs. She told me I was hysterical too. My daughter's monitor alarm kept going off and nobody came. One message stopped me cold. Our child suffered complications after oxygen alarms were ignored in that same ER wing last winter. I sat staring at the screen, realizing Liam may not have been the first child endangered there. Then my phone rang again. Hospital administration. Their tone had completely changed. "We'd like to resolve this misunderstanding privately," the administrator said carefully. Misunderstanding. I almost laughed. A few hours later, Marcus called from an unknown number. "They suspended my access," he said quietly, "but before they locked me out, I found one more thing." "What?" There was a long pause. "Dana entered notes accusing you of interfering with treatment before Liam's oxygen levels even crashed." I went silent. She had prepared the story ahead of time. Like she already knew what was coming. The next morning, state investigators arrived at Harrington Medical. News vans lined the street outside the ER entrance. And Dana Reeves was nowhere to be found. Around noon, Jenna called me again. Her voice sounded stunned. "Investigators just uncovered another altered pediatric chart tied to Dana." The investigation into Harrington Medical lasted 4 months. By the second week, state investigators had already uncovered a pattern. Patient charts altered after emergency incidents. Alarm response times edited. Missing documentation. And nearly every case pointed back to Dana Reeves. The full truth came out slowly at first, then all at once. Dana had been silencing oxygen alarms during overcrowded shifts to keep response statistics low and avoid triggering additional emergency protocols. According to internal emails investigators recovered, supervisors' new complaints existed for over a year. But Dana helped the ER maintain fast treatment metrics. So complaints disappeared. Parents were labeled emotional. Staff members who raised concerns were ignored or pressured into silence. Liam's case became the one they couldn't bury because I filed the emergency report immediately after it happened, before every system record could be cleaned up. The breakthrough came when investigators recovered backup security footage from an external archive server the hospital forgot existed. I sat in a conference room with investigators, lawyers, and hospital administrators while the footage played on a large monitor. There was Liam in the hospital bed. There was Dana removing his oxygen mask. There was me telling her he couldn't breathe. And there she was rolling her eyes before walking out of the room while the alarms started sounding behind her. Nobody in the room spoke. The footage continued. Liam's lips visibly darkened. I rushed to put the mask back on him myself. Then emergency staff ran in. The lead investigator paused the video and turned toward Dana. "Why did you leave the room after the alarm activated?" Dana sat stiffly at the end of the table. "I believed the patient was stable." The investigator clicked another file open. Edited timestamps. Deleted alarm logs. False notes claiming I interfered with treatment before the emergency even happened. Dana's composure finally cracked. "That mother was screaming at everyone," she snapped. "You have no idea what it's like in that ER." "But you altered records," the investigator replied. Dana said nothing after that. Marcus later admitted he nearly stayed silent because he was terrified of losing his career. "I kept seeing his face," he told me quietly one afternoon. "When his lips turned blue, I couldn't pretend I didn't see it." Once the investigation became public, more families came forward. One father described begging Dana to check his daughter's oxygen monitor, while she dismissed him as paranoid. Another mother produced discharge paperwork, with treatment times that no longer matched archived system logs. The hospital entered crisis mode almost overnight. State regulators issued penalties. Civil lawsuits followed. The pediatric ER underwent a full operational review, and the ER supervisor who protected Dana resigned before disciplinary hearings began. Dana's nursing license was suspended pending permanent revocation. At one hearing months later, I sat only a few feet away from her. For the first time since all of this started, she wouldn't look at me. An investigator testified that if I had not forced the oxygen mask back onto Liam and activated the emergency response button myself, his oxygen deprivation could have become life-threatening within minutes. Hearing those words out loud made my hands shake under the table. Because that was the part I still replayed at night. How close I came to losing him while someone in charge called me dramatic. The hospital eventually issued a formal apology. It arrived in a thick envelope full of polished corporate language and signatures from executives who never once visited Liam's room. I left it unopened on my kitchen counter for days. An apology didn't erase hearing my son ask if he almost died because he did something wrong. For weeks after coming home, Liam refused to sleep without a pulse monitor clipped to his finger. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and find him checking the numbers himself. But slowly things changed. The coughing stopped. The nightmares became less frequent. And little by little, hospitals stopped being the first thing he talked about. I started volunteering with a patient advocacy group soon afterward, helping families document incidents and file formal complaints when hospitals tried dismissing them. One parent told me I thought nobody would believe me. I understood exactly what she meant. Months later, I tucked Liam into bed after he finished building a blanket fort across the living room. He grinned up at me and said, "I breathe better than Darth Vader now." I laughed harder than I had in a long time. As I turned off the bedroom light, I glanced toward the framed copy of the emergency complaint sitting on my desk nearby. The report I almost didn't file. The report they expected me to doubt. The moment they called me overdramatic was the moment their entire cover-up started falling apart.